Bashar al-Assad has fallen. The man who ruled Syria as a dictator for 24 years has been defeated by a quick rebel offense that, in less than 2 weeks, took over the entire country. Right now, the future of Syria is unclear. However, what we can discuss are the potential consequences of Assad's fall for Syria, the Middle East, the West, and the world as a whole. Let's dive in because there's a lot to unpack. At the moment, there are two main scenarios for Syria's future, and each could lead to very different outcomes. The most likely outcome is that Syria becomes a fractured state, with a patchwork of territories controlled by different groups, much like a kingdom of factions. These territories would operate independently, but would not be officially recognized as nations. Each would likely receive support from different foreign countries with their own interests. If this happens, it's highly probable that Syria will descend into a second civil war. This new conflict would involve various groups that had previously fought against Assad now turning on each other to gain control over the country. In this scenario, the fighting wouldn't just involve 2 or 3 sides, it could be a chaotic, multi-sided war. Moderate rebel groups, HTS, a group linked to Al-Qaeda, the pro-Turkey Syrian National Army, the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF, and even remnants of the Islamic State could all be involved. This situation is similar to what happened in Libya. There, the rebels who overthrew Muammar Gaddafi couldn't agree on how to run the country, leading to a prolonged civil war that still hasn't ended. The chances of Syria following this path are high. The country is full of armed rebel groups, the opposition is deeply divided, and no single faction, not even HTS, which is the most organized, has the strength to govern the entire nation. This leaves room for smaller groups and local leaders to fight for their share of power. If Syria falls into this kind of chaos, the consequences for its people and the world could be devastating. First, the Syrian population, who are already suffering from years of war, repression, and economic collapse, would face even more hardship. Instead of finding relief after Assad's fall, Syrians would be trapped in a new and even more complex conflict. This time, there wouldn't be a clear front line between two sides. Instead, multiple battles would appear across the country, with various groups fighting over territory, resources, and key strategic locations. The lack of a central government would also lead to a surge in illegal arms trafficking. Rebel groups have already acquired massive stockpiles of weapons and military equipment, much of which could be sold on black markets around the world. These weapons might end up in the hands of guerrilla groups, criminal organizations, terrorist networks, and other dangerous actors. Additionally, a new Syrian civil war would likely trigger another wave of refugees. Countries like Turkey, Lebanon, and Jordan, which are already overwhelmed by millions of Syrian refugees, would face even greater challenges. This would also put pressure on Europe, which has spent billions of euros trying to manage the refugee crisis. The European Union, for example, has paid Turkey large sums of money to stop refugees from crossing into Europe. If Syria descends into further chaos, this arrangement might not be enough to contain the crisis. But this isn't the only option. While less likely, there is a chance that Syria could take a more positive path. The leader of HTS, Abu Muhammad al-Jilani, has been trying to rebrand himself and his group as a more moderate, attempting to present HTS as a movement that could lead Syria towards stability, while respecting the country's diverse, ethnic, and religious communities. If he succeeds, HTS might form a coalition government that includes many of the opposition factions that fought against Assad. In this scenario, Syria could begin to rebuild and work towards becoming a more stable and developed nation. Western companies could invest in the country's reconstruction, and there could even be a competition among oil companies for access to Syria's valuable oil fields. A stable Syria under Sunni leadership, especially one that respects the autonomy of Kurdish regions, could improve the country's international standing. Nations like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Turkey could gain significant influence in Syria, while the international community might lift some of the economic sanctions currently imposed on the country. There's also the potential for major infrastructure projects, such as pipelines and trade routes that connect Gulf countries to the Mediterranean via Syria. These projects could boost the region's economy and reduce tensions between neighboring countries. Most importantly, this scenario would bring much-needed relief to the Syrian people, who have endured unimaginable suffering over the past decade. However, if HTS takes control of Syria, there's a risk that they could establish a radical Islamist regime. Such a government might be intolerant of ethnic and religious minorities, women's rights, and basic human rights. And yes, while this outcome is possible, it's unlikely that HTS could enforce such a regime without the support of more moderate factions. Otherwise, they would risk triggering another civil war among the rebels themselves. Many rebel groups would likely refuse to accept the establishment of a theocratic state. No matter which scenario unfolds in Syria, the fall of Bashar al-Assad will have major geopolitical implications at the international level. For starters, Russia is likely to lose its military bases in Syria. This will significantly weaken Russia's ability to project its power in the Middle East. It will also lose its only naval base in the Mediterranean, making it much harder for Russia's navy to operate in the region. This is a severe strategic blow to Russia, which has used its presence in Syria to maintain influence in the Middle East. Iran, too, will face major setbacks. Assad's regime was key as an ally in Iran's Shia axis, a network of alliances that gave Tehran significant power in the region. With Assad gone, Iran will lose its ability to send supplies and weapons to Hezbollah in Lebanon. And it will also lose its military presence in Syria, including the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and allied militias. In short, Iran's ability to challenge Israel and influence the region will be greatly diminished. On the other hand, Sunni-majority countries like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE are likely to gain influence in Syria. Turkey in particular could emerge as a dominant player in the region. For the United States, its role in Syria is expected to decline further. The U.S. has been a key backer of the Kurdish-led SDF, but it's unclear how Washington will protect its allies in the region. With Donald Trump returning to the presidency, this support could weaken even more. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're a new YouTube channel, and we will be bringing you 2 new geopolitical videos every week. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.